Let's use TextPad to create our first web page. We're going to write some HTML known as source code here in TextPad. TextPad is a text editor, or sometimes called a programming editor, because we can write Java or C or HTML and other types of programming languages here. We can also execute them and test them. So let's begin by writing a very simple HTML program. Let me go grab some code that I have. You can type this in directly, and you can type in exactly what I'm doing here. Some very simple HTML code. We have 9 lines of code, and let's go to our View menu here in TextPad and turn on the line numbers, just so it's a little easier to talk about the code. So notice on lines 4 and 7 we've indented. This is good practice. I'll be talking about this later. So on line 4 I did a tab, on line 7 I did a tab. That's a fair amount of space, by the way, there. Not too important right now, but later it will be. So let's go configure TextPad as well. Configure, preferences, document classes, HTML. When we click on the colors, we see some of the color coding that TextPad will use once it recognizes a file as an HTML file. I'm going to increase my font size to 12 instead of the default of 10. And I'm also going to make sure that my tabulation is at 2 instead of at 4. By default, TextPad will use 4. If yours is at 4, you might want to change it to 2 in the same way. So let me say OK there. Now, TextPad still does not recognize this as an HTML file because we haven't saved it yet. Notice in the header where it says TextPad document 1 with an asterisk. Also, on the left window it says document 1 with an asterisk. That asterisk is a clue to us that the file has not been saved. So when we're writing for the first time or later when we make changes, look for that asterisk. If you still see it, your file has not been saved and your updates will not be effective. So let's save this file. File, save as. And we want to save everything in a special folder. Let's create a new folder called, first of all, Web Apps. This is where we will put all of the websites that we create. And within Web Apps, let's create another folder for our very first web app called Web App 1. So I'm in Web App 1 and I'm going to save the file. Now, a word of caution down here at the bottom, make sure that you change the save as type. So we want to change both the save as type to be HTML, and then of course we want to change our file name to be something more meaningful than document 1. Typically we begin with a file called index. Web browsers look for an index file as the first or default file. So we'll start with an index.html file in our Web App 1. Let's save that. Now, as soon as we do that, TextPad recognizes the file. It is now listed as index.html on the left. At the top, TextPad tells us exactly where the file is saved, the folders, and the name of the file. The asterisk is gone because we have saved it. And it has also recognized this as an HTML file and changed some of the colorization and the tabulation. Okay, we're almost done. So we've written some simple HTML, but we want to see this in a browser because that's ultimately what we want to do. So let's view in the web browser. So we're using TextPad to write our code, save it, and then take a preview of it in the web browser. So there's Firefox, and there's our very simple line of code, hello world. Seems very crude and simple, But we've done exactly what we wanted to do, and that is write our first simple program in TextPad and make sure it works in the browser. It's always good to begin with something simple and then work incrementally from here. So congratulations, we have established our first web app.